Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not gay. I don't sound like an LGBT liberal PowerPoint presentation type of person. So here we see in Job, right? Job 5, for example. Job 5:15. He saves the needy from the sword in their mouth. He saves them from the clutches of the powerful. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts its mouth. Okay. So God is a savior, but what kind? A warrior savior. So let's look at Job 17:9. Nevertheless, the righteous will hold to their ways, and those with clean hands will grow stronger. So it says the righteous will go stronger. So the divine order, right, is an order of righteousness. We didn't say that the Israelites will grow stronger no matter what. It said that the righteous will grow stronger. Job 5:20. In famine he will deliver you from death, and in battle from the stroke of the sword. So again, what it's talking about is spiritually speaking. Okay, because Job is complaining, for example, in Job 19, that God is figuratively and spiritually waging war against him, and he's arguing that it's unfair. And to make a long story short, when you think about what Job is really about, you read it again and again, you work the angles, you see that that God actually was being fair. God knows more than the devil, and he allowed the devil to make the argument that he should be able to harass Job because life's a struggle anyway, and Job had achieved a certain degree of spiritual strength, right? Like it says in Job 17, right? Nevertheless, the righteous will hold to their ways, and those with clean hands will grow stronger. So we go to Job 19:10. It says, He tears me down on every side till I am gone. He uproots my hope like a tree. His anger burns against me. He counts me among his enemies. His troops advance in force. They build a siege ramp against me and encamp around my tent. And they're fuming me, so I changed my voice. But they change my voice in every video at every moment. Okay, so he says that they're encamping around his tent, right? They're advancing against him. In Psalm 18, it says, with God's help, the king can advance. Okay. So it's this spirit. It goes on to say in verse 21, have pity on me, my friends, have pity, for the hand of God has struck me. So has God literally with flesh struck Job? No. His family members were killed, he was robbed, what have you, but God didn't strike him, nor did any of these guys, who robbed him and killed his family, literally slap him or something. It's talking about the spirit of God, but it's a martial arts spirit. It's not a Greco-Roman spirit. It's not the spirit of the West or Israel. It is the Royal African Falcon martial arts spirit. How do we know? We know because of characteristics. Characteristics. See, martial arts is about building character, and to understand character, you must understand characteristics, right? I remember this one, I used to quote Master Hyo Cho. Again, I don't do Taekwondo. I don't consider him above me. No one's above me. I'm the top martial artist ever possible. But he said, you must first understand yourself, right? Try to understand yourself. Then you must master yourself. Then you must try to understand others. Okay. So you have to understand the characteristics. So when I look at people, I look at the Jews, I look at the whites, I look at the blacks, Hispanics, you name it. I look at every race, every group, every individual I pass by. I live in California. I've been on the internet for many years. I've been on the internet for like 30 years or so, since I was 10, 12 years old. Back with GeoCities and Yahoo and American Online. I've been to, the malls. I've been to the parks. I've been to get-togethers. I've studied people from all over the world. I dated a female, my ex-female lived in Greece. My ex-fiance lived in Greece. So I'm very familiar with people. And I tell you, it's clear what God's order is and what God's order isn't. And after I'm gone, there'll be nobody who is worthy to connect to God or to serve God. It'll be clear. All right, so we go to Job 8:20. Surely God does not reject one who is blameless or strengthen the hand of evildoers. So it says he strengthens the hand of the righteous in Job 17:9, and in Job 8:20 it says God does not reject the blameless or strengthen the hand of evildoers. So when we look at martial arts, right, it's about building character. It's about being right with God. Even if you're not monotheistic, you've got to think of the source of righteousness, right? Where does righteousness come? Where these people who do their systems, part of the flaws of their system is they perceive righteousness to be coming from their people or their system, okay? But it's not. Righteousness transcends, worldly systems. It comes from God through the top martial arts ever possible, me, okay? And so, they're fuming me. Sometimes they do things in a way so I kind of lose my train of thought because they're jealous, right? And we see all the martial arts systems of the world, right? Everything but mine, okay? They're in submission to the New World Order, okay? So the New World Order tries to make it harder for me to explain why they're wrong, to their extreme disgrace. He will fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Your enemies will be clothed in shame, and the tents of the wicked will be no more. Job 9:19. If it is a matter of strength, he is mighty, and if it is a matter of justice, who can challenge him? And, if it's a matter of strength, spiritual strength, God is almighty, right? If it's a matter of justice, he's, the most just thing ever possible. Okay? It's God. But it also has implications on who is the King of Kings, which is me. Okay? Because if it's a matter of spiritual strength, they have no case whatsoever. They've been, pleading with the New World Order for mercy and kissing their ass while I've been triumphing over the whole world, especially the New World Order. If it's a matter of justice, they're unjust. They cheated me out of my right to lead. The throne's established in righteousness and justice. They don't have a viable counter-argument. Everyone just cheats me without even making any argument as to why they think it's okay. So they can't challenge me on spiritual strength. They can't challenge me on justice. Proverbs 16:12, I've established the throne. Now let's look at it in terms of the mark of the beast. Job 13:27. You fasten my feet in shackles. You keep close watch on all my paths. So it says God shackles his feet in shackles, and he keeps close watch on all his paths by putting marks on the side of my feet. Okay, so how does God, control what paths he walks on? Right? He has him in shackles, and there's marks on the side of his feet. The marks of the beast are being put on him, is the argument being made. But it's really in his head to some degree, right? God doesn't intend to marshal him to hell. That's part of the story specific to Job. Okay. And when we go to Job 15:22, it says, he despairs of escaping the realm of darkness. He is marked for the sword. And when we see later on in Job, when God answers Job and the three people with him, okay, I think the younger person who weighed in wasn't there at the end. It doesn't say that he was, if I'm not mistaken. He says to him that he marked the dimensions of the earth, right? So, a key in the mark of the beast is how you interpret the end of the Bible, okay? For those people who don't bother to read the Bible, it's how you live your life. If you live your life more interpreting that heaven will come down to this planet right here, okay, then you've accepted the mark of the beast, right? It's an animal, right? It's an animal who just sees things in terms of the flesh and the material realm, and a wolf marking its territory, a dog, what have you, and they see things in terms of the world, okay, where the Bible's talking about the essence of the world and the essence of heaven. It says heaven and earth return to where they are. Okay, think of the earth as the outer layer of the actual earth, right? And not just, the whole planet as the outer layer. In the spiritual realm is the rest of the earth. So what it means by a new heaven, it means going to a new heaven and new earth. It means going to the spiritual realm where the actual heaven and earth is, a place that cannot be contaminated. When it rains, for example, the rainwater is part urine. On the dust, on the ground, right, the dirt, there's a lot of animal dung and so on and so forth there, right? So this isn't a sacred place. This isn't a clean place. It's a place where there's water that helps you get cleaner, okay? There's sun, it could dry you off and so on and so forth. There's things in nature naturally that help with that. But the essence of being cleansed and pure, okay, is something that can only occur somewhere else. Okay. So we see here clearly that, we see here clearly that God is a warrior, and the mark of the beast has to do with the spirit of moral precision versus the flesh of the psychology, right? In the cult of the flesh, which includes psychology and erotic desire and things of the world. For example, if you had two, see how the Bible's insufficient, right? I have to explain it and they're fumed me and so on and so forth. But if you have two people, right? One's an American martial artist. He's very proud. He has an American flag on his pickup truck and he's driving around and he's accepted the psychology of America. When the Bible says all the nations go down to hell, Sheol, Hades, the realm of the dead. Okay, and this person is, swears by the psychology of the state. He lives it, he conforms. Everyone kisses his ass. He has a good standing in the community. And he goes to his martial arts school and everyone's accepting him. Yay, he's shaking everyone's hands. Yay, right? And he disagrees with me about the end of the Bible. He says, no, he's a white American and, he has black friends. He's not racist and da-da-da. And he believes that heaven's going to come down to earth and it's going to perfect the New World Order, which is white, Jew, LGBT, and Asian heavy, right? And, of course, it's not fair because the people who have done the most to try to be righteous are actually black people. But again, there's the individual, there's the group. Okay, but no tree that has produced less righteousness than the African tree can bear fruit that surpasses the African tree. That's part of the application of no good tree can bear bad fruit, no bad tree can bear good fruit. Now, it's really the sub-tree of the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, which is the good tree of God. But it's found in the greater grouping of trees, if you will, of the African tree. And after I'm gone, no one's going to be right with God and so on and so forth. Okay, no offense to anyone, it's just the facts. Okay, so that person argues with me, right, and says no, and that they want me to submit to the social orders of the state and to pick a church. And their allies are fuming and poisoning me, and that person's playing dumb about their part. And he says, hey, he says, there's nothing he can do about that. It's not his fault, even though he's on their team, right? He's part and partial. He's complicit. Proverbs 18:9. One who's slack in his work, his brother, the one who destroys. Whoever doesn't gather with me scatters. What have it? He's guilty of sin. And he's arguing that he should be allowed to look good and be famous, and he feels bad, so he kind of jokes around a little bit on TV so people, don't put extra on his worth, okay, his perceived worth in the construct, rather, because they there's people following him. They're too dumb to see that he's an idolater and a Satanist who's chosen the flesh and the psychology, the cult of the flesh and the psychology of the state, right? So he's accepted his identity as something in the construct, right? As a white American, right? The idea of being a white person is something that you're told, say your skin is this way, you left Africa, your ancestors left Africa, they went here, their skin color changed, you have a certain culture, a certain belief system, hey, you're white. And then he goes to America, right? At some point, his family goes to America. And they say, you're American now, and this is your country, and so he's accepted a series of false identities from the psychology of people who follow the flesh and not universal pinpointed moral precision and wisdom. And that's part of the quote-unquote wisdom of the world, which is not wisdom at all. It's falsehood. Okay, and he's too afraid to face the masses and insist on what's right, and on some level, he knows he's wrong. So his feet, in a sense, have marks on him. He's traveling the dark paths of the world. And he's going to the essence of the filth of the material world instead of going to the essence and the source of what the earth is like a part of, is a part of until it gets sealed out. It gets sealed out because it has no more use to God. Just like an apple gets rotten, you throw it away. It is a rotten planet that's discarded by God. The whole universe is not that important to God. What's important is the spiritual essence of things. He's marked for the sword. He could be the nicest guy you've ever come across, but he's marked for the sword. And he's despairing of escaping the realm of darkness. He knows that God doesn't work that way. Regardless of what the white Jew and LGBT power structure does, I mean, that's like playing a Barbie doll game and cutting, and turning your back on God. God does not respect their game, their ways, their cultures. God does not operate that way. He says, obey God through the King, which is me, the only way to obey God, or go to hell. So that's the difference in a nutshell between the cult of the flesh and those who choose the spirit. Those who choose the spirit will have no problem with me saying it's a Royal African Falcon Martial Order, say give credit where it's due. Those who choose the flesh say, no, that's not how it works. You're in America. White people run America and Europe and da-da-da. We have all the money and you can't say that. We're going to sabotage you. And there's token minorities and social clubs and Freemason groups and corporate groups and political groups who feed into the fact that feed into the idea, not the fact, that white culture is magically superior and da-da-da-da-da. And they say this rubbish, right? And by them using white culture, it doesn't matter who it is. If I was in Mexico and they were saying Mexican culture, okay, they'd be wrong too. But it's not only they're saying it here in this kind of white-dominated nation, white Jew and LGBT-dominated nation, okay? They're saying it as the people who colonized the world. So they take on this particular adversary spirit, which is consistent with the characteristics of Satan in a way that goes beyond other groups. That's why the Romans and the Jews together killed Jesus in the story. And among the Romans and among the Jews were LGBT people, right? The Jews were sinning in various ways, and one of the ways was, similar to Sodom. That's why they're called, by Isaiah, I believe, the people of Sodom. Okay, so it's white Jew and LGBT people taking on, their governing class and everyone who accepts their cultures, okay, taking on the main adversary stance against God. Okay, and Satan means adversary. And Jacob means to seize by the heel, to supplant, to overreach, right? They overstepped their bounds. Okay? The Romans, the Jews, the LGBT community in the story, in their own book, they're the ones who presented this book, mind you, overstepped their bounds to the extreme. And they followed that. And some of them have told me flat out that they intend to follow the footsteps of their ancestors. And that's what they did, right? Killing Jesus, being hypocrites, what have you. Even when Jesus touched down there, he said, hey, you people are hypocrites and you're following hypocrites. Like the Pharisees, the Sanhedrins, right, the Sadducees, what have you. Pretty straightforward. So if you're not racist, you give me my rightful place, you obey God through me. If you're a selfish person or a racist or some kind of scoundrel, you don't obey God through me because you're fucking insane. And you're part of the rape by deception construct.